So it is now 3rd down and 12. Giants must get to the 22 for a first down.
And I think with no timeouts left, this is 4-down territory.
Jones hit. Down he goes. Back at the 3-yard line. 6th sack for the Jets.
And watch Jenkins. Look at the speed that he comes off the corner here. Working on Eric Smith. Tackle that wasn't expected to play. Nate Solder is out. Just uncontested, really, to Daniel Jones. Big sack, and they have to punt this away now. With no timeouts left, the Giants are in trouble.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's your boy HP, and you're listening to the Unsportsmanlike Conduct Podcast, a podcast for the average Joe covering football and everything New York Giants. Before I get started with today's episode, I want everyone to please make sure you follow me on Instagram. That's _Unsportsmanlike_conduct. I'm also on Twitter, so everyone please make sure you follow me on Twitter. That's _Unsportsman. And lastly, but most importantly, if you're listening to this, you might as well subscribe. So everyone please subscribe to my YouTube page. So as I'm sure you can tell from the opening clip of this episode is going to cover the Week 10 loss to the New York Jets. The New York Giants have now lost 6 straight games, falling to 2-8 in a Big Apple, a fight for the crown for New York City against the inner city rivals, the New York Jets. This game only happens once every 4 years, and today we lost that matchup. And you know what? To be quite frank with you, I'm tired of this freaking losing. We've lost 6 straight games, and a lot of these games that we're losing, we're so close to winning. It's almost the same tale as the previous years. We keep getting into these close game situations, but we're a few plays away from the offense, we're a few plays away from the defense of actually getting over the hump. I'm just sick and tired of it. I'm tired of this poor coaching staff. I'm tired of the fact that we keep giving up more than 24 points a game. I'm just sick and tired of it. I'm sick and tired of the Daniel Jones fumbles. That's right. He had a hell of a game, but I'm tired of these untimely fumbles, these gut-wrenching fumbles. I'm tired of James Bettcher calling these zone coverages, these soft zone coverages, allowing subpar receivers, grade B, average receivers, on crossing routes to catch and wreak havoc in the middle of the field, catch the ball in space, and create yards after the catch week in and week out. I'm sick and tired of it. It's almost as if the New York Giants in totality have to play a perfect game in order to win. But every other week we have a fighter's chance because we're in these games, and that's the frustrating thing. We're in almost every single game. Every single game that we played this year. In almost every single game that we've played this year, we've been competitive. We just can't make enough plays towards the end of the game to either create enough points, score enough points, or to stop the other team from scoring points. And sometimes that ends up resulting in our own team, whether it's Daniel Jones or someone else fumbling it or dropping a pass. Or we just can't stop opposing teams' defenses from scoring and driving the ball down the field. Opposing teams' defense is taking so much time off the clock. Taking 7, 8, 10, even 11, 12 plays to drive the ball down the field on us and score on us. I'm just sick and tired of it. The New York Jets are not a good team. Sam Darnold and that New York Jets passing attack has struggled since he's gotten back. They did pretty well against the Dallas Cowboys when Sam Darnold came back from whatever the hell he was sick from mono. But other than that, Sam Darnold has struggled. This passing attack has struggled, and I know because I have Robbie Anderson, and he has shit the bed for my fantasy team to the point where I'm too afraid to even start him. There's a reason why in a lot of leagues, Jamison Crowder is on the free agency pool. There's a reason why Demaryius Thomas is in a lot of leagues free agency pools. It's a reason why no one even dares to pick up a New York Jets tight end. There's a reason why Leveon Bell's utilization and production has been underwhelming. People have drafted Leveon Bell in the first round. That's been their first round pick, and he has been underwhelming. This offense is not a good offense, but we made it look like one. Now, I'll get to it in detail because I know the defense had some pretty decent plays and some decent runs where we had a good defensive stand, especially in moments where we had scored a touchdown and then the following drive the Jets had the ball and we were able to get a 3-and-out. But overall, we still gave up more than 21 points. I'm not entirely sure what James Bettcher's doing out there. And look, I think a lot of people think, well, we got a lot of pressure this time and James Bettcher dialed up a lot of blitzes. Well, were those blitzes effective? Just because we're bringing up an extra DB or an extra linebacker in to get to Sam Darnold, and yes, we did hit Sam Darnold quite a few times today, but it wasn't as effective. He still completed passes. We didn't force turnovers. We didn't force one turnover this game. What's the point of sending a blitz if you don't have the DBs also to cover for one less extra person in the secondary? And that's what happened in today's game. You had Demaryius Thomas look like, he rewinded the clock 5 years back. You had Jamison Crowder looking like a number one wide receiver, when on any other team he'd probably be second or third option at best. We got to Sam Darnold 8 times. Leonard Williams accounted for 4 of those QB hits. So out of the 8 hits, Leonard Williams, a former Jet who's used to practicing against this offensive line, got 4 of those hits, only half of those hits. The rest of those hits came from other defensive players on the New York Giants team, and it was 1 hit each. It wasn't like any, rather 2 of them came from Marcus Golden, who also had a pretty decent game and ended up registering a sack. Jabril Peppers had 1 hit, who is a safety, and we continuously play him in the box because we don't have anyone else. We don't even have a cover safety. We know that we can't put Jabril Peppers out deep into the secondary, so that's why he's always continuously in the box. And for some weird reason, we decided to put Antoine Bethea as a single high safety in almost every single play. I'm not entirely sure why you would play a 35, 36-year safety in the middle of the field, which is probably the reason why there's so many blown coverages, especially in situations where we're continuously running soft coverages, and you see tight ends and slot receivers catch the ball in the middle of the field and create yards after the catch week in and week out. But I want to stay on this sort of pass rush topic because I think a lot of people think that, we had success blitzing today. We did not have success blitzing today. We had 8 quarterback hits. None of those QB hits turned into a turnover. They never resulted into a turnover. We only had 2 sacks. Out of the 8 QB hits, 2 of those ended up resulting in sacks. We can get 2 sacks without blitzing, folks. We get 2 sacks without having 8 quarterback hits. We've had that this season. So don't tell me that our blitzing was effective today. Do I like the fact that James Betcher was much more aggressive today? Of course I was. But what's the point of being aggressive if you don't have the personnel to execute it? It doesn't make any sense. Sam Darnold was 19 of 30 in today's game, threw 230 yards. Demaryius Thomas caught 6 for 84 yards, was targeted 9 times. A 31-year-old wide receiver was targeted 9 times. When a wide receiver is targeted that many times, that means the quarterback is looking at something. He's trying to exploit a matchup. He's trying to exploit something that they know the opposing defense cannot cover. This might have been, I think, Demaryius Thomas' best game this season so far. Jamison Crowder went for 5 receptions and 81 yards. Demaryius Thomas' longest catch was for 47 yards. Jamison Crowder's longest catch was 25 yards. What is this team doing? You can't stop a Demaryius Thomas. Demaryius Thomas looked like he was an all-star in today's game, and that's what our defense tends to do. They make good players look great, and they make subpar players look good. Adam Thielen had a career game against the New York Giants when we played the Minnesota Vikings. Mike Evans had a career game against the New York Giants when we played the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Dalvin Cook had a career game against the New York Giants when we played the Minnesota Vikings. Amari Cooper looks like a top 3 wide receiver when he plays the New York Giants. And honestly, I'm surprised Robbie Anderson didn't burn us on one. And he almost did. And then DeAndre Baker, of course, because he gets called every single week, gets called for a stupid, irresponsible defensive pass interference. Every single person knows how to play a ball on defense. Every single person knows that you have to turn around. The DB has to turn around and make it look, act like you're making a play on the ball. But DeAndre Baker has shown me, and I know he's a rookie, and I don't mean to be hard on him, but he has shown, look, there's one thing if a receiver's too fast and you can't keep up with them. I can't get mad at you, Baker. If you can't keep up with the Robbie Anderson or an Amari Cooper, look, at some point physicality is going to win this. Is going to win moments and battles in this game. I can't get mad at Baker for not being able to, to be step by step with the likes of an Amari Cooper, Stephon Diggs, Adam Thielen, and Robbie Anderson. But I can be upset is about basic fundamental stuff, basic football 101. Baker, you have to turn around and make a play on the ball, otherwise it's going to be a pass interference. He's had a very up and down year, but more down than up. He's shown that he's a very physical cornerback. Sometimes he's a little too physical, and he gets these weird, sort of annoying and frustrating defensive pass interference calls. And then the one like today, which was a head scratcher, because Robbie Anderson burned the top off of that defense and that secondary, and it was just so unfair because of course we don't have Antoine Bethea or Jabril Peppers back there to cover up and protect DeAndre Baker from getting burned. Of course, that probably would have been a touchdown had DeAndre Baker not done the defensive pass interference. And granted, I think it did end up becoming a touchdown because it was a Sam Darnold scramble for 1 yard. Either it was a Sam Darnold run or it was the Leveon Bell touchdown, I think, right after that play where the ball was on the 1 yard line and the goal line. I'm just sick and tired of it. We don't have the secondary to blitz the way James Bettcher was blitzing. And we learned that today. This defense is far from being as good as we think it can be. James Bettcher is not the guy to do it. Having zone coverages on the young, just because it's a young secondary and you don't want them to get burned by man-on-man, but doesn't this young secondary need to do man-on-man coverage? Because those assignments are easier than a zones defense, because zone defenses are confusing. I mean, think about it like this, folks. If you're a young DB coming out of college, and a zone defense is telling you that you're supposed to cover a certain aspect of the field, but then you see a wide receiver run a certain direction and a tight end run a certain direction, you're almost inclined to bite on certain routes and sort of leave your assignment and leave your zone because you're such a young DB that you're not disciplined enough to stay within your zone. How is that more effective for a young secondary than man-to-man? I'd rather have Corey Ballantyne get burned on a man-to-man. I'd rather have DeAndre Baker get burned on a man-to-man, which we've obviously seen almost every single week or every other week, than have a wide receiver or a tight end on a simple-ass crossing route. I mean, some of these routes, it's not like the guys are running complex routes where DBs are falling and getting cracked and played. No, it's just a simple miss coverage. Funny thing is, sometimes it looks like some of these defensive players are in their assignments, but there's just so many holes and gaps within the defense. There just needs to be new energy. James Bettcher decided he wanted to bring the Arizona Cardinals to this New York Giants defense. So he brings in Kareem Martin. He brings in Marcus Golden. And granted, Marcus Golden, 6.5 sacks. He's almost trying. He creates a play almost every single game. Always tries to get into the backfield. But Marcus Golden is not supposed to be our premier pass rusher, folks. We need a better pass rusher. James Bettcher almost had no say, it appears, from an offseason perspective. I don't know. It's almost as if James Bettcher wanted the guys that already knew his playbook, but he didn't take too many chances. I want to actually backtrack. I didn't mean he had no say in the offseason, because clearly it looked like he did. Because he's signing all these players that once played for him. Antoine Bethea, Kareem Martin, Marcus Golden, and then Buchanan as of recently. But I think what James Bettcher needs to do, and you know what, I think the reason why Bettcher wants to do this is because he knows his defense is so complex, he needs people to come in and actually teach the rest of the guys the playbook. But that's troubling. Because what that lets me know is that you have the inability to teach your defense to new players. So you want people that are already in the system to come in and teach the rest of the team. We almost never see that in any other league across the NFL. In any other team across the NFL, but we see that with James Bettcher. It's frustrating, and I'm just tired of the losing. I can't do this anymore. We gave up 34 points, and I know one of them was a return. I know that one of them was a Jamal Adams caused forced fumble, strip sack out of Daniel Jones's hands, and runs it for the end zone. I'm going to get to that later, too. But we gave up 30, so what? Fine, you minus one touchdown. We gave up 27, 28 points. You can't give up 27 points and think you're going to win an NFL game. How many times are we going to consistently do this every single week? Darnold threw 1 touchdown. He ran for 1 touchdown. Leveon Bell ran for 1 touchdown. This is getting out of hand. This defense is getting shredded every single week. Now I'm going to give credit where it's due. From a run game perspective, we were stout. We gave up probably 1 big run play, and that was to Bilal Powell for 13 yards. Other than that, we were a stout run defense. Leonard Williams was all over the place. We had Jabril Peppers making plays in the box. Dalvin Tomlinson, Dexter Lawrence. Le'Veon Bell had 18 carries for 34 yards. 1.9 rushing yards per attempt. We did a hell of a job in the running game, but think about it. We did so well in the run game that we still couldn't win today's game. That we still gave up 27 points. Think about that, okay? We gave up 27 points, and we were still unable to win the game, and we gave up all those points with stopping Le'Veon Bell in this running game. And Le'Veon Bell wasn't even effective in the pass game either. It's not like he was a threat in the pass game. He had 4 catches for 34 yards, and I'm looking at that stat line, and I was surprised he even had 4 catches, because to be honest, he was almost non-existent all game. He was a non-factor. We took him out of the game defensively. This defense, it just needs to improve. And look, the bye week is coming, and John Mara and company, they need to make a decision. The owners and the GMs of this team need to make a decision. Are they going to keep this coaching staff? And if you think they're going to keep this coaching staff, the expectation is that you think that this current coaching staff can lead the future of this Giants team. Can lead these young players to be successful and execute in years to come. Because I don't see it. I simply don't see it. And I don't mean to sort of, beat a dead horse with this. We had 8 QB hits, only 2 sacks. In those 8 QB hits, we didn't force not 1 turnover. We forced Le'Veon Bell to run for 34 yards on 18 carries. And yet we still managed to give up 27 points. We gave up 3 touchdowns and 2 field goals. It's not excusable. It's just unexcusable. There was one drive, I believe it was in the second half, and don't quote me on this, but there was one drive where it was a great punt, and the ball had started on the New York Jets' own 8-yard line, and it ended up being in a field goal. It's inexcusable. And I just want to check that. Let me, guys, give me a couple of seconds because I want to check that. I want to check at what point of the game this had happened. So, okay, yep, so it was in their own 8-yard line. Just 1 second, folks. It was certainly in the second half. See, I take a lot of these notes down, and I want to make sure I get the right moment in time because I want everyone to maybe maybe if they're on the same line, maybe they're sort of understanding or can reason with my reasoning. I want them to sort of just have a better picture of where I was coming from. Hopefully I can find it. If I don't find it within the next couple of seconds or so, I'm gonna give it up. But certainly reach back out to me on personally or drop a comment, and I can sort of follow up on that because I can't find it in my notes. But there was at one point, and it should have been in the second half, Sam Darnold and the New York Jets had the ball inside their own 8-yard line. They kept shredding our defense. I believe that's where Demaryius Thomas ended up having his 47-yard gain, his run after the catch. They ended up driving down the field, shredding our defense, and luckily that drive ended up stalling out and resulted in a field goal. But a ball that is on your own 8-yard line results in a field goal. That is a testament to how poor James Bettcher and this defensive system is for our staff and for our schemes. And the reason why I want us to change coaches quickly is because I'd rather have this young team, this very inexperienced and young team, learn a new system right away and they can forget their old habits. Because if maybe we have another year or two with James Bettcher and then we bring in a whole new defensive scheme, I don't need to have DeAndre Baker, Julian Love, or Corey Ballantyne, and even Jabril Peppers come out and sort of struggle with understanding new defensive concepts. Because now, if you really want to break it down, that would potentially be also Jabril Peppers' third defensive coordinator. And I'm not even entirely sure how many defensive coordinators. Yeah, that would essentially be Jabril Peppers' third defensive coordinator. That is not something I want my young team to go through. So I'd rather have them sort of fix that right now immediately. I think James Bettcher has to be fired, but I think he should last this season because I don't want too many changes mid-season for this team, given that probably at the end of this season, we're going to let go of Pat Shurmur, bring in a new head coach, and that new head coach is probably going to the clean house from a coaching staff perspective and bring all of his own guys in instead. So those are my frustrations with the defense. I want to talk about the offense now. I want to give a big shout out, a big kudos to Daniel Jones. I want everyone to clap it up for Daniel Jones. Instead of me sort of pressing a button and you all hearing a digital clap, I'm going to make you hear my clap because I'm so proud of the way Daniel Jones played today. So everyone give a big shout out and a big sort of round of applause for Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones threw for 4 touchdowns. 2 touchdowns connected with the other rookie, Darius Slayton, who also had a tremendous game. And then veteran wide receiver who we recently signed after a result of the OBJ trade to Golden Tate. On 2 touchdowns that were big touchdowns. Daniel Jones threw 26 for 40, 308 yards, and 4 touchdowns. And he did all of this while getting sacked 6 times. And this statistic is outrageous. He got sacked 6 times for a loss of 50 yards. You know what that means? In 6 sacks, he lost a potential of 5 first downs. Because every new set of downs is 10 yards. Think about that. He lost a set of 5 first downs as a result of 6 sacks. This offensive line played horrendous. Daniel Jones played as perfect as he could. Despite that one bad fumble, he played as perfect as he could. Let me see how many times he got hit. He got hit 10 times. Got sacked 6 times. And still almost had a near perfect game. But the running game didn't help him at all because Saquon Barkley ran 13 times for 1 yard. You know how many negative plays Saquon Barkley got stuffed for? This Jets defense looked like a top 5 run defense. And they're not. Daniel Jones had more rushing yards than Saquon Barkley. Unbelievable, this offensive line. Daniel Jones plays a near-perfect game, but this offensive line couldn't protect Jones enough and couldn't move up the opposing defensive line to create space for Saquon Barkley. I mean, how many times were those 13 carries? Probably a little more than half of those carries were up the middle between the guard and the tackle, between the seams, between the tackles. That is what disturbed me because that's not where Saquon Barkley exceeds. Saquon Barkley exceeds running from sideline to sideline. Okay, up the sideline, that's where he gets the burst and gets the big gains. For some reason, Pat Shurmur kept having these inside zone plays for Saquon Barkley to just get stuffed. We have our center injured. Do you really expect because of our center being injured that we can get some push up the middle for Saquon Barkley? It just made no sense. And I understand that half of our offensive line was injured. Nate Soldier ended up leaving the game. We didn't have Mike Remmers. John Jalapeno left the game as well. He didn't leave the game. He was actually out before the game. So I know that our starters weren't in. But 13 carries for 1 rushing yard, that is very inexcusable. There's no reason for our star running back to only have 1 rushing yard. That makes no sense. I don't care how good that defense is supposed to be because they're not that good. There's a reason why other teams have had success against that New York Jets defense. Saquon Barkley, it's almost as if Shurmur didn't think to make any adjustments to get Saquon Barkley the ball better in space. Even from a passing perspective, where were those big plays that we needed him to do and create? I mean, I'm watching this Dallas Cowboys and Minnesota Vikings game, and they're getting Dalvin Cook out in space with the ball, and people are missing tackles. I know that a lot of these Giants fans are saying that Saquon Barkley is injured. I don't think he's injured. He's trying to cut. He's trying to dance before he hits these holes. His feet are moving fine to me. It's this offensive line that's not getting him in space. The 1 yard isn't because I think he's still a little bit injured. And look, I think when you play in a football season, everyone's a little banged up. I think he's doing decently fine. I think he feels as normal as he did prior to when he got hurt. I don't think that's the reason why he only had 1 yard. It's Pat Shurmur's fault. Pat Shurmur can't create good enough plays. It's just inexcusable. It's inexcusable. Poor utilization of Saquon Barkley once again. I mean, that has been the theme of this year, pretty much for our offense. We're losing games, and now it's not Eli's fault. And today, it wasn't even Daniel Jones' fault. Now we know it's clear and cut. It was Pat Shurmur's fault. Saquon Barkley had 5 catches for 30 yards, and to be honest, I don't even remember those receptions. The one reception I remember, it was sort of an out route out of the flats, and I think it was a third down. It was either third down or fourth down conversion. Saquon Barkley catches the ball for a 22-yard gain. Gets in front of the linebacker. There's no way for them to catch Saquon Barkley, and that was a huge play because that ended up resulting in keeping the drive alive, and we ended up scoring a touchdown. Other than that, I don't remember anything else. Because a lot of those plays were plays that were non-impactful. Saquon Barkley had 5 receptions for 30 yards, in which one of them, the longest reception, was for 22 yards. That means the other 4 receptions result in 8 yards. That means every single catch, on an average, only gave us 2 yards of production. Too many times did I see us, the New York Giants, being third and intermediate and third and long situations. It was inexcusable, man. It's just, I'm tired of it. I'm tired of poor play calling. Daniel Jones played a great game. Once again, musters 4 touchdowns. Once again, finds a way to scramble in and out of the pocket, create some yards, with his feet. Tries to extend plays, extend drives. Is this another player? Is this another good young New York Giants player that we end up wasting? We wasted OBJ, and now we have to trade him to the Cleveland Browns. We wasted Landon Collins, and we didn't sign him this past offseason. Is Saquon Barkley the next talent? Is he the next casualty? Is Daniel Jones the next casualty? I mean, it already looks like Sterling Shepard might be, given his concussion issues. It already looks like Evan Ingram might be. I mean, there's rumors that Evan Ingram might be was possibly on the trading block. That what was it, a week or two ago during the trade deadline? We are wasting really good talent away because of poor coaching, because of poor play calling. It is absurd. And look, the bye week is approaching, and I said this with James Betcher when I gave my defensive analysis. The bye week is approaching. They need to make a decision on whether they want to keep Pat Shurmur or not as our head coach. And if you fire Pat Shurmur, my question is, who's going to be the interim head coach? Do you keep Mike Shula? Because Mike Shula, I don't know. Do you keep Mike Shula? Who would be the interim head coach? I can't do this anymore. I can't keep seeing Saquon Barkley run for 1 to 2 yards, negative yardage up between the guard and the tackle. The whole game, I'm looking for Wayne Gallman. Wayne Gallman barely got any burn. If you see that Saquon Barkley is struggling to run the ball, then why don't you throw in Wayne Gallman? Maybe that gives us a new energy. Maybe that gives us a different look. When Saquon Barkley was injured, it was, I believe, the Redskins game, where the game after Saquon Barkley was injured, where Wayne Gallman started, and not only had a good rushing game, but had a good receiving game. Ever since Wayne Gallman came back from his concussion, he's been non-existent in our play calling. But with the Pittsburgh Steelers, they have 2 good running backs. They have Jalen Samuels, and obviously their star running back, James Conner. No matter how good James Conner is doing, they still found a way to feature both of those backs because both of those backs are dynamic. But why can't we do that? We have 2 dynamic running backs on our team, and we don't feature them enough. I mean, we barely do a good enough job featuring our main running back. That's an issue. We've had Wayne Gallman for a couple weeks now. He's been back from his concussion for a couple weeks now, and he hasn't gotten enough playing time. And I've said this for everyone who has known me before my podcast and for people who've known me since I started my podcast. I've said this time and time again. When we drafted Saquon Barkley, I wanted us to draft a quarterback instead because at the time, I thought Wayne Gallman was a suffice enough running back. And he's shown flashes of it. So why aren't we using him enough? If we see that Saquon Barkley isn't working out and he can't muster up plays, why don't we throw in Wayne Gallman? Wayne Gallman, look, he's not an explosive runner as Saquon Barkley is, but I would argue that he's just as good as catching the ball out of the backfield. And again, he's not explosive enough, so when he catches the ball, he's not going to have as big of a play as Saquon Barkley will, but he can catch the ball equally good. He can run a route equally well. But we don't feature him enough in our offense. We don't mix it up. We don't give them different looks. So when you put Wayne Gallman in, and then if we mix and match with Wayne Gallman, then we throw in Saquon Barkley, that will throw off the defense. Because now it's like, well, why are they putting in Wayne Gallman? Are they going to pass here? And then bam, we hand it off. Maybe it's a draw play. Maybe it's an inside stretch play. Where it goes from one side to the opposing tackle. From a receiving perspective, look, we had what we had to work with. You know, I can't blame Daniel Jones for not featuring or going to every other wide receiver enough. He went to Slayton a lot. He went to Golden Tate a lot. After that, I mean, look, you don't have much to work with. Benny Fowler, Rhett Ellison, who was initially brought in to be a blocking tight end because we were moving away from the fullback. He ended up having 3 targets. He had 3 catches for 42 yards. But again, I can't blame Daniel Jones for not going enough to the rest of the guys because we don't have enough guys anymore. Shepard's hurt. Evan Ingram's hurt. But how sad is it that Daniel Jones can play a nearly perfect game, 4 touchdowns, throws for 300 yards, doesn't throw 1 interception. I don't even think there was a pass where there was probably maybe 1 or 2 passes throughout the whole game that I sort of scratched my head and thought, well, Daniel Jones, what are you exactly doing there? That was a close call. But nothing too outrageous as we've seen sort of in other games. Yes, Daniel Jones did have the fumbles, but you know what? I mean, that's who he is right now. Right, I mean, I think that's something that he'll fix in the offseason. I don't think, you know, that's something that he can currently fix as he's going through the motions as a rookie in his first year as an NFL quarterback. I think as he gets a little bit more better throughout the offseason, sort of working on his game and working on how to be more aware of his pocket presence and the things around him, he'll get better in sort of securing that football. But other than that, I thought he did a fine job, did a great job through some darts, through some very accurate passes and some timely passes as well. Their receivers coming right out of their breaks, and he was finding guys like Benny Fowler and Golden Tate right out of out and slant routes, finding a Darius Slayton. And big kudos, by the way, to Darius Slayton. I gave him a big round of applause for Daniel Jones, but big kudos to Darius Slayton. But before I do talk about Darius Slayton and the impact he's had on this offense, how unfortunate is it that Daniel Jones can play a nearly perfect game, but the offensive line is unable to protect him and protect enough and pass enough, push enough of the opposing team's defensive line for Saquon Barkley to run in space. And as a result, we lost. We lost even when Daniel Jones plays well. And like I said earlier in this episode, this is not even Daniel Jones' fault. We didn't lose because of Daniel Jones. We lost because of Pat Shurmur. We lost because of James Bettcher. The inability of both of these coaches to make in-game adjustments is beyond me. Week in and week out, we see both the offense and the defense struggle in a particular area and continue to approach the game the same way, and as a result, we never get to improve in those areas. Today was one of them. We weren't able, from a defensive perspective, we did well against the run, but we weren't able to stop those pass plays. We weren't able to stop yards after the catch. We weren't able to stop the Jets from getting first downs after first downs, converting third downs. And we did have some nice plays. We did have some good defensive stands because there were moments, look, I want to be fair here. But because there were moments where the Giants would score a touchdown right after the Darius Slayton touchdowns, right after the Golden Tate touchdowns, where the Giants come back on defense and they get a stop. They prevent the Jets from scoring. And those are momentum plays. I mean, there were times of the game where I thought the Giants had enough momentum. But when you don't make in-game adjustments on things that are working for the opposing team's just going to continue to exploit that. And that's what happened on defense. They kept finding receivers in space to create more yards after the catch. Some of these Jets offensive drives were long drives. 7, 8, 9, 10 drives. 7, 8, 9, 10 plays. Then from an offensive perspective, we continue to run the same type of run plays for Saquon Barkley, which resulted in 1 total rushing yard for Saquon Barkley, which became more easier to defend us on 3rd and long situations. I'm actually very surprised that Daniel Jones had a good game from a passing perspective. I'm very surprised that Darius Slayton had a career-high game. Had 14 targets. What, he had 10 catches? 14 targets. We obviously know he had the 2 touchdowns. So I want to actually give a big round of applause to Darius Slayton on a huge career game and definitely showing why he deserves to be a starter from here on out. Deserves to be one of the receivers to be reckoned with and to be highly coveted and highly targeted from here on out every single game for the rest of the season and for the rest of his tenure with the New York Giants. So everyone give him a round of applause. Coming into the preseason and coming into the regular season, I said that Darius Slayton was going to be our new wide receiver threat. And he showed some pretty good route running. He's not only a burner that can just run a go route, he's shown the ability to run some pretty good darn slant routes as well. I think he had another play where he had back shoulder throw catch. He had some comeback routes. I mean, he can run more than one route. At first, I thought he was going to be the burner where he would line him up in the slot and he would take the top off the defense. And because everyone was going to be, because the opposing defenses were probably going to be so focused on Shepard, Ingram, and Evan Ingram. Evan Ingram and Golden Tate. I thought Slayton would end up being the one wide receiver that would end up being open because safeties would play closer to the first down marker or to the line of scrimmage because of the fact that we would probably end up having Sterling Shepard, Golden Tate, and Evan Ingram running these short to intermediate routes, and then we'll end up sending Darius Slayton long for a big gain. But no, Darius Slayton's shown he can do it all. You want him to do a comeback route, he can do that. You want him to do a crossing route or a drag route, he can do that as well. And then if you want him to do a post route or a go route, he can do that as well. And he's shown, although there was a scare in the preseason and also in the sort of during training camp that he's had trouble catching the ball, he's shown he can bring the ball down. Darius Slayton is our new wide receiver threat, and you know what? Don't be surprised. Don't be surprised if the Giants don't decide to prioritize wide receiver in this year's draft. Because I think Darius Slayton's our guy, and what a find by Dave Gettleman. Because Darius Slayton was what, a 5th or 6th round pick out of Auburn? It wasn't like he was a premier top coveted wide receiver out of college. So a great find by Dave Gettleman, and he had a heck of a game. And I do want to sort of touch upon this connection because Darius Slayton and Daniel Jones, they connected even during rookie minicamp. They first connected during rookie minicamp, then they came into minicamp, then in the preseason. I mean, they've shown that connection is going to work. And I look forward to seeing that tandem wreak havoc and take over games for years to come for the New York Giants. Golden Tate, someone who was brought in to help Giants fans, sort of get over the fact that we traded away one of our best playmakers in OBJ. Golden Tate has come in and he's done a pretty good job. And a big kudos to him for bringing, 4 catches, 95 yards and 2 touchdowns. And for one of the touchdowns, that was a 60-yard screenplay. Right? So that wasn't a dart or a dime by Daniel Jones. That was simply a routine screenplay. There was great blocking up front, and Golden Tate was able to burn the top off the defense and find the end zone for a 60-yard gain. Those were plays that OBJ was making in the past. And Golden Tate made that today. So we have offensive weapons, but it's about execution. It's about blocking, protecting our quarterback. Imagine if Saquon Barkley was able to run the ball well. Imagine Saquon Barkley was lined up, more frequently at wide receiver in the slot and was found open in space in the middle of the field while a linebacker or a slow-ass safety is chasing him on a simple crossing route. But because we don't put Saquon Barkley in those situations, it was just Daniel Jones versus the New York Jets. And that's why Darius Slayton had 14 targets today. When a receiver has more than 10 targets, that means the offense is one-dimensional. That's what that means. I don't know. It was like, it's frustrating because It's easier to put the blame on Daniel Jones when he's the reason why we lose. But when he plays so great and we lose, now who's to blame? It's got to be the coaches. This happened against the Lions. Daniel Jones had a 4-touchdown game against the Lions. He wasn't the only. Granted, he did fumble the ball, but he wasn't the reason why we lost that game. The defense gave up more than 24 points. We struggled to protect the line again. We struggled to run the ball again. Pat Shurmur is not suited to be the head coach for this team. He is not suited to help this team generate enough points on the offense. I'm sorry, but Pat Shurmur's got to go. That whole coaching staff's got to go. And I'm sick and tired of losing because we've lost 6 straight games. And now we're tied. Our records are almost the same, or not, if not even worse, than the Miami Dolphins, the Washington Redskins, and now the New York Jets. We are officially one of the worst teams in the NFL, and we'll probably be ending up with a top 5, top 6 pick in the NFL draft. Because the New York Jets, this was a game I thought we were going to win, and we didn't win. We're going to lose 2 games to Philly. So what are we, 2-8? We're going to be 2-10. So that's 2-10. Honestly, we might even lose to Miami because that defense looks good. We're going to lose to the Packers, and we're probably going to lose to the Bears. So we're going to have 12 losses for sure. So we, at best now, have a chance to only win 2 more games. That's possibly against the Redskins and the Miami Dolphins. But I don't see us winning any of the games against the Philadelphia Eagles. I don't see us winning against the Packers, and I certainly don't see us winning against that stingy Chicago Bears defense. Folks, this team is in trouble, and if we want any sort of sign for this team to do better in the future or in the coming years, this team has to let go of the coaching staff and bring in a new regime. They have to start from the ground up again. Dave Gettleman has to realize that Pat Shurmur can't get the job done. We lost to a bad team. We made a bad team today look like a really, really good team. And this was in spite of one of their best playmakers in Leveon Bell only registering 34 rushing yards. Folks, that wraps it up. That was episode 28 of the Unsportsmanlike Conduct Podcast. Next week is a bye week, so that will be my off week. But we will return the following week after against the Chicago Bears, so stay tuned. I will be posting about that matchup in the coming days. Peace out. It's your boy HP. Please make sure to subscribe. Till next time.